Hello, for today we're going to learn how to identify conic sections in equation form. The equations of conic sections are very important because they tell us not only which conic section to graph, but also how they look like. The general form of a conic section is ax squared plus bxy plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0, where a, b, c, d, e, and f are constants. But not every conic sections has all these constants. But an equation, for it to be conic, must have an x squared and a y squared. If neither x nor y is squared, then the equation is not a conic section. Let's start with a circle. When do we know if the equation is a circle? First is the constant a and c are equal. Also, there is an x squared and y squared. So, once again, when x and y are both squared and the coefficients of x squared and y squared, which is our a and c, are equal, then it is a circle. For example, 4x squared minus 12x plus 4y squared minus 2 equals 0. So this equation is a circle because the coefficient of x squared, which is 4, and coefficient of y squared are equal. They're both positive 4. And also we have x squared and y squared. Another example is 3x squared plus 3y squared plus 4x plus 6y plus 10 equals 0. So we know that we're going to graph a circle because we have x squared and y squared, and their coefficients are equal. The next conic section that we will discuss is about parabola. So if the equation only contains an x squared or a y squared, not both, then it is a parabola. So first example, y is equal to x squared minus 9. So in this example, we only have x squared. Y is not squared, so this is a parabola. Second example, x minus 2y squared plus 4y minus 12 equals 0. So in this equation, only y squared is squared. So this is a parabola again. Next example, 15y plus x squared minus 8x minus 53 equals 0. So as you can see, the y is not squared and we only have x squared. So this is a parabola. The third conic section is an ellipse. When x and y are both squared and the coefficients are positive but different, then you have an ellipse. So again, when your x is squared and your y is squared, they're both positive, coefficients are different, then you have an ellipse. Example, 9x squared minus 3x plus 2y squared plus 10y minus 4 equals 0. So we have 9x squared, positive 9, and we have positive 2y squared. So this is an ellipse. Next, we have 8x squared plus 9y squared minus 124x minus 79 equals 0. So we have positive 8 x squared and positive 9y squared. Coefficients are both positive and different. And you have an x squared and y squared. Therefore, this is an ellipse. The last conic section is hyperbola. For hyperbola, when x and y are both squared and exactly one of the coefficients is negative and one of the coefficients is positive. So meaning the coefficient of x squared and coefficient of y squared must have opposite signs. Example, 3y squared minus 5y minus 2x squared equals 2. So for y squared, the coefficient is positive 3. For x squared, the coefficient is negative 2. So one is positive, one is negative. This is a hyperbola. Second example, negative x squared plus 8y squared plus 100 equals 0. So we have a negative 1 coefficient for x squared and positive 8 for y squared. So this is again a hyperbola. Let's look at example number 3. 25y squared minus 4x squared plus 14y minus 100 equals 0. So we have an x squared and y squared. The coefficients, one is positive 25, one is negative 4. Opposite signs and different. So this is a hyperbola. To recap our lesson for today, so we will know if the equation is a circle if the coefficient of x squared and y squared are equal and positive. So you have an x squared and a y squared. And their coefficients are equal. For parabola, we have either an x squared or you have a y squared, not both. Either you only have x squared or y squared. So we can say it's either a coefficient of x squared, 0, or the coefficient of y squared, which is c, is equal to 0. Now for ellipse, you have an x squared and a y squared. But a and c are not equal and must have the same sign. Okay, but have the same sign. And lastly, for hyperbola, you also have an x squared and a y squared. The coefficients are not equal, but have different or opposite sign. Thank you. I hope this helps.